Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Battleground War Room. Obviously, you guys are not here for me. You guys see my beautiful face every week. But before we bring in our guests, who I'm really looking forward to, because it's actually a first time, not only in the Battleground War Room, but a first time for me, I do have an announcement to make quickly. Because October 25th, Battleground Championship Wrestling returns to the 2300 Arena. And we've seen a lot of matches announced, but there's been one match that fans of the Battleground have been kind of wondering who this person's going to be facing. And as we know, the last show, Dani Mo lost her title to Sami Chaos. Sami will not be at the show this month, but Sami did pick her opponent, taking on Dani Mo in a number one contenders match. You've seen her before in the Indies quite a bit, but now she's on the big stage. The one and only Lena Cross makes her debut in the 2300. So, guys, that is the big announcement. Dani Mo takes on Lena Cross, October 25th, 7:30 start time. However, I do want to mention also that around the Battleground War Room, around the ropes, however you want to phrase it, we'll be doing the pre-show. But enough about me. I want to bring in our guest right now because, like I said, I am looking forward to this. You may not know who she is per se, but you definitely know who her dad is, especially if you're an old-time wrestling fan, especially tag team wrestling. I want to welcome to the show for the first time the one and only Dynamite Doll. Dynamite, welcome to the show. How have you been?
I'm amazing. I'm so excited that it's finally October, and that means I get to come to Philadelphia this month, and it's my favorite place to be. I'm in Canada, and guess what? We already had a little bit of snow this weekend, so I'm ready to leave and come to the USA.
Yeah, snow is not. Honestly, I would rather take the cold than what we've had the last couple of days.
Where are you based out of?
I'm on Long Island.
Okay. It's been really hot?
Today was actually kind of hot. I was kind of surprised.
Oh, well, I'm jealous.
But the nice part is I think they said by Wednesday or Thursday it should get to like the 60s.
Yeah. So I'm in Calgary and it's very bipolar. So this morning my windows were all frosty on my car. I had to defrost the windows. And then I got off work today and it's hot out because I wore a sweater and now I'm hot. But that is Calgary for you.
Yeah, that's the weather it feels like anywhere. But obviously you make sure you come back to Philly. And obviously wrestling kind of runs in your blood. For people who are watching this who may not know exactly, just kind of explain to people who your dad was and how, is like sort of who he was.
Yeah. So my dad was the Dynamite Kid, as you can probably tell. He's right above my shoulder here. I got all the Stampede Wrestling posters. I got his wrestling buddy. And so I growing up around professional wrestling, Stampede Wrestling. I was backstage WWF all the time growing up. Now WWE, of course. And I'm a wrestling manager. So I've been involved in wrestling for 13 years. And I started off, locally, just doing Calgary shows for a long, long time. And more recently, about a year ago, I really sought out to branch out more into Canada, different parts of Canada I haven't been to. So I just recently went to Montreal. I went out east to New Brunswick. And then I wanted to hit the States more. So I've been coming to Philadelphia. This will be my third time coming to Philadelphia. And that's kind of my second home. I'm making it my second home. I absolutely loved everything about it. Love the promotion, Battleground Championship Wrestling. Love the venue. It's a historic venue at the 2300 Arena. Love all the workers. Everyone was so kind, professional. And I absolutely love the fans. So I'm really excited to come back. And I'm also promoting that they're making a movie on my father. So that's why I came back in July and I announced in Philadelphia about the movie. That was the first time I ever announced to the world. And I just want to keep coming back and letting everyone know where we're at with the movie and keep them updated. And like I said, I fell in love with Philadelphia. So I'm going to stay committed and make that my second home.
You mentioned the fact that they're making a movie about your dad and his career. Yeah. When you got approached about the idea that they're making a movie about your dad, what was your first initial reaction to it?
I was like, hell yeah, finally. But I had to do my research because I've had people approach me before and maybe they're just, screenwriters, but they've never actually made a movie, or whatever, things like that. So I had to actually do my research. I'm like, okay, this guy's legit. He has a legit website. Like, he's worked on TV shows and won awards and stuff like that. So, and I went to my mom right away, of course, because she would just know more than I do. Like, she's a writer herself, and she's been writing a screenplay of her life for quite some time. So that's actually something that I said to the producers right away is, yes, we're interested, but my mom has been writing already, and we would like to involve like her parts with my father in it in the movie. So she is closely working with them on the script.
Now, when, like I said, they're making this movie. Obviously, we've seen a lot of families in wrestling be made into movies. Now, obviously, we saw the Von Erichs recently. What story do you want them to kind of tell about your dad?
We really wanted to do his whole life story, like growing up in England and how he got involved in wrestling and moving to Canada, like everything. But I think, of course, you only have, like 2.5 hours type of thing. So we're going to have to probably cut it down. We probably won't get as much of like his childhood as we would have liked, but it'll be really based on kind of his wrestling career, how that started in England, how he came over to Canada, and how he branched out from there into WWF and Japan and all the stuff that came along during that time period.
Hey, who's to say there's not a second movie? Just saying.
Yeah, you never know. And then, of course, and then after the wrestling, but I mean, we'll just have to see how the movie ends.
Yeah, say take it one step at a time. But obviously, your dad was very big with tag team wrestling. Obviously, he and Davey Boy Smith were the British Bulldogs.
Yes.
When you have wrestling fans come up to you, and they're fans of tag team wrestling, and your dad's usually one of the first names that's brought up, kind of take us through that mindset of, when you see him, when you saw him, growing up, did you see him as a wrestler, or like, kind of take us through that a little bit?
I was so young that I didn't know any different. I was just like, that's just my dad. And like my uncle's Bret Hart as well. My mom's sister married Bret Hart. So it's related to the Harts, grew up with the Harts. And so I didn't know any better. Like everyone in my family, their dad was a wrestler. So it didn't mean much to me. I was just like, I didn't really realize what an impact my father had on the wrestling business until like the internet became a big thing. And I was like, wow, he's like really praised and studied. And yeah, going to shows, people are always, even young people that are training now are like, your dad's my favorite. And I'm like, you're like 19. How do you even know who he is? Like,
well, that's where YouTube comes into play.
Exactly. Yeah. So it makes me feel very, very proud. And I mean, that's my blood in me. So yeah, I'm very proud of my dad.
Well, what, obviously you were probably at a lot of his shows. What's one match do you remember seeing?
Actually, I don't remember seeing any live wrestling of my father. I feel like I was always backstage. I would have been just probably too little to appreciate it, or like couldn't sit down. So I'd be hanging out with Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man, and that's just where I chose to be.
But okay, so now I'm going to ask you this. Now, obviously, growing up, you're kind of in, I would consider, one of the biggest wrestling families out there. Obviously, with who your dad was, you're married to the, related to the Harts. Do you remember any like crazy stories about like, Macho Man showing up for dinner one night?
Not. I wish Macho Man showed up for dinner. However, him and Miss Elizabeth really loved me, and they didn't have children of their own, so I always got birthday cards, Christmas cards. So that's really cool. Not every kid can say that. But I did have Mark Henry make us dinner one night, which is pretty wild. Yeah. I think I'm not too sure if he ever lived in Calgary or was training in Calgary, but there was a time period when my mom was a single mom, like my dad had left back to England, and my mom had to go back to university to get a teaching degree. So we kind of rented out our basement. Like it was just cots, like 3, 4, 5 cots to wrestlers that were training with like, I'm not sure if it was like Kent Shamrock. I'm not sure who they were training with, but they were in Calgary training, and they would rent out our basement and live with us. So I had Christian, Edge, Test was like my big brother. I was the closest with him. And then a couple other guys that didn't make it into WWF. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so Mark Henry, I'm not sure if he fell into that, was training in Calgary, but one night he came over and made us dinner. And my brother was a very, very picky eater, and Mark Henry was like, "You have to eat your broccoli," and he was like, "No." Like, no. And he was just like, my brother was like 7 or whatever, just like standing toe to toe with Mark Henry, refusing to eat his broccoli.
I'll put it this way: if I have somebody like Mark Henry standing over me or look at me and say, "I have to eat my broccoli," I'm just gonna sit there and say, "Yes, I'll eat my broccoli," because I know what Mark Henry can do to people.
I'll have you all know my brother eats vegetables now and meat. He was like one of those kids that only ate like pasta and cheese growing up and like cheese pizza, but he's finally grown up.
Now, obviously, growing up with your dad, with who he was, when you were at school, did you have kids who came up to you and, were you looked at differently because of the fact of who your dad was?
So my dad left when I was about 6, almost 7 years old. So no one really knew who he was at that time. So that would have been like 90, 91. Sorry, 91, I believe he left. So no one really knew, but it was more my Uncle Brett that was like, because he started getting the bigger name. And so kids in my class at that time, around grade 2, when I was 7, were like, "Your uncle's Bret Hart." And it was really cool because my dad had left. And of course there was that, I needed that father figure in my life. And so my Uncle Brett would like come to my Christmas concerts. And I remember it was my birthday and he sent me like a massive balloongram to my birthday, or to my classroom. Massive card that said like "Love Uncle Brett," and I was just like, "Haha, I'm so cool!" Like showing off to all the boys, like my uncle sent me this.
I would sit there if all of a sudden I was at a Christmas concert, all of a sudden Bret Hart showed up. I would kind of do a double take, like, "Wait, that was Bret Hart?"
Like, screw the kids singing. Bret Hart's in here.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, "Okay, Mr. Hart, I got a couple questions for you."
Yeah.
But obviously, looking, I think you said you became a wrestling manager, and you've been doing that for the last 13 years. Was that your goal because of the fact that wrestling's kind of in your blood, was to somehow get into the industry?
So when I was a little girl, we always had a wrestling ring. We had one in our backyard, and then Brett had one at his house, and then of course at Stu and Helen's, that's Brett's parents' house, there's the dungeon, and there was also a ring outside. So every single house we played at, there was a ring. So we were always rolling around in the ring, but I was always Miss Elizabeth, always. So I think I knew even back then that I was like, because my cousin Dallas, that's Brett's son, he'd be like, "I'm Macho Man." I'm like, "I'm Miss Elizabeth." And my cousin Jade would be Scary Sherry, and that's Brett's eldest daughter. And yeah, I think I just kind of knew always from then that I really gravitated towards her, loved her fashion. And I knew them personally. So of course I just absolutely idolized her. And growing up, I kind of resented wrestling. Eventually my dad was, ended up in a wheelchair, and injuries and all, back injuries, or surgeries, I should say, multiple surgeries. Of course, we've lost family members and stuff like that. So I kind of hated wrestling at a time. And then enter the Attitude Era, and I was kind of drawn back in again, watching Trish Stratus. I was like, "Who is this? What's going on?" Like Lita and the Hardy Boys, and my little sister was watching wrestling, and so we started bonding and watching wrestling together. So I got back into it then, and then when I reconnected with my father in 2010, after that I was like, I want to get involved in wrestling. Before that I wanted to get involved in wrestling in high school. And then it took me till about after I had my first child, so about 2010. And I reconnected with my father, and I wanted to get involved in wrestling because I think I just felt like a part of me was missing. And like, I don't know, I just had this urge to do it. So I did one show, and it was just going to be a one-off tribute show for the Stampede wrestlers in Calgary. And then I had so much fun that I was like, I am definitely coming back next month. And of course, that addiction, that adrenaline rush, and you never really leave.
I'll put it this way: people who are in the wrestling industry, it's a good drug. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's I didn't grow up playing a lot of sports. I was always very shy. I was never like on a team or anything, and I remember, I think I was really shy too because there was always big, massive wrestlers around, and my dad was always on the road. So I would hide behind my mom's leg, and she'd be introducing me to this wrestler and that wrestler at Stu and Helen Hart's house on Sunday dinners. And I was just like, hi. And then I'd hide back behind my mom's leg. I was so shy. So eventually getting involved in wrestling, I felt like I belonged. And I was like, oh, I've been missing out on this my whole life. And finally, found where I belong. And so it just made sense.
It's funny you bring up the fact of, your dad being on the road so much and then, the surgeries and everything. We did a show on my regular show, Around the Ropes, probably about a couple months ago in regards to mental health. And I'm bringing it up because we were talking about it on the show. And guys, again, if you want to go back and watch it, I definitely recommend going back and watch this episode. How wrestlers back in when your dad was wrestling really couldn't take time off.
Right.
Per se.
It was a grueling schedule.
And that if they took off, they were afraid they were going to lose their spot.
Yes.
Did you see that with your dad?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, my cat is meowing up a storm. He wants to say hi. He does this every podcast. This is Mr. Billington. He's very British. Yeah, I did. My dad would be on the road for a very long period of time. And when he was home, he would just be resting. He would be napping on the couch. He needed that recoup time and there wasn't a lot of it. So we would do family dinners and he would just be resting his body.
But people don't realize, and obviously you can probably attest a little bit better, that schedule. Because if I'm not mistaken, back then, they were on the road over 300 days a year.
That's right.
How much of a toll did that take on
I know my dad even got his back surgery and he rushed back because he was like, well, I need the money. And I think we had just bought a house. My parents had just bought a house. And so he was worried about that. And my mom was explaining to him, you don't need to rush back. You can take your time. This is what we can do. But he, felt he would lose his spot and needed the money. So, but I mean, now you'd probably get paid for being off, right? They didn't have that.
Well, I think the schedule now, especially in WWE, but I think also now the schedule in WWE now is much less than back from when your dad was wrestling. Because I think now they do Raw, they do SmackDown. They don't do many house shows anymore like they used to. And I remember hearing stories about wrestlers being on the road, taking 8 flights in a 7-day week.
Yeah.
It was.
Apparently, he would always choose the earliest flight he could to leave the venue because we were in Canada and it'd be a connecting flight and he just wanted to get home as quick as possible. So he'd be like, I'll take that first flight. He'd be running out the venue and trying to get home to us.
No, I get that. I've heard those stories over the years. Yeah. Especially towards the end, obviously, with wrestling kind of being in your blood, when you got back into it and you're able to pick your dad's brain a little bit, did that help, kind of ease you into it a little bit more?
My dad at that time, he had his strokes. By the time we kind of reconnected and I was working wrestling shows, he had his strokes and he couldn't talk very well. So we really didn't get to sit down and talk about that kind of stuff. But I mean, I told him I went to England and did shows and I stayed with him for that week. And we were watching wrestling DVDs together because I brought my laptop and DVD player and we were watching old wrestling matches and connecting that way. And it was super cool because he hadn't seen any of those matches since he was in them. Because he doesn't he didn't have the internet. He didn't, and he would just have his little couple channels on TV. They'd play World of Sport over there in England. Mm-hmm. So he might see an old match of his, but that's it. And then we watched we actually watched the movie The Wrestler. So that was pretty cool too, to do that with him.
What did he think of that movie?
He said he liked it. He's a man of little words. And like I said, after the strokes, he couldn't talk a lot, but he said he liked it. So I was like, all right, good enough for me.
I get that. Now, I know there's actually another Billington right now in AEW, Thomas Billington. Is that cousin or?
Yeah. So that's my dad's brother's son. He has 2 sons that are in the wrestling business. Mark is younger than Tom. and they were tag teaming as the Billington Bulldogs. But Tom's kind of come over to Canada. He's like actually living in Canada now, and Mark's still in England. So they're kind of doing their own solo stuff right now, but they're both involved in wrestling.
Because I know Thomas was actually supposed to be at one of the Battleground shows, I think, last year.
Yeah, and I think it conflicted with AEW is what happened.
So now when you see Thomas on TV, does that kind of, get you a little excited that it's like, you can still see the Billington name on with a big company?
Very much, yeah. They actually came to Calgary. So I saw him on TV first, and then I think the second time or third time was live in Calgary. And so the first time, like my whole family came over. I can't remember if it was Dynamite or what's the Saturday one?
Collision.
Yeah, I think it was a Collision, I believe. My whole family came over, like my niece and my youngest daughter, and we were all just like, because you see like Dynamite Kid and big lights, and I'm like, and he looks just like my dad, and the song and everything, and so that was really cool. But seeing it live, I like freaked out because I was, you're trying to be in the moment, but you're also trying to record, but you're like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. Like I was just beside myself, like crying, and then I knocked over my beer on the floor. And I was just a hot mess.
You want to be a fan, but you want to also record the moment. But it's like, holy crap, the reason I brought him up with Battleground was he was supposed to take on, I remember the match, Lance Anawahi for the title. And I was doing commentary. I was supposed to do commentary for that match. Yeah. And knowing the history of both families, I kind of sat there as a fan. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You're basically talking about, we always talk about, in wrestling, they always talk about the Mount Rushmore list. Yeah. And, sometimes you always hear the conversation about wrestling family Mount Rushmore lists. And it's always the Harts are always on the list. So the fact of almost having the opportunity to call a match between the Anawahi and the Hart/Billington family.
Yeah. Or you can say Billington Smith.
Billington, yeah. That's probably the way to phrase it. Mm-hmm. But
we're all three.
Want to look ahead.
Oh, sorry, you froze there. What did you say?
Sorry. You're on October 25th, you're making your return to Battleground.
Yes.
Now, do you know what you're doing yet? If you want to say it now or if you want to keep it?
Well, I am coming to promote my dad's movie and just keep that fan base going, because when I came out there, I fell in love with the Philadelphia fans. They're so loyal and passionate. And so I want to keep coming there and keep them updated on the movie. I'm going to have all kinds of merchandise and stuff like that at the table, meet and greet. I'll be there. And I would love to get involved somewhere on the show because, I am a wrestling manager. And I think that there's so much hot talent on this card that I'm like, who would be a good fit? I saw that you announced Dani Mo's match, and I thought, well, because she's Dynamite Dani Mo, and I'm the Dynamite doll, that could be a good fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to see. I'm going to come there, scope out talent, and see what happens, because Philadelphia is where it's at, and I plan on continuing to come to every single show.
It's funny you bring that up because I actually have the graphics here for some of the matches, and I just want to get your thoughts quickly. Is there a specific match you're looking forward to seeing?
I think just everything, but I'm really excited to come for Halloween. I know it's Tim, the promoter. He says it's his favorite show, and I haven't been to Philadelphia yet in the fall. I hear it's beautiful in Philadelphia in the fall. I'm hoping that the Phillies are going to be playing on the Friday night. That would be awesome to be able to go to the game or just go watch it in the city somewhere. But yeah, I'm just most excited for the Halloween vibe. It's Halloween. People are going to be dressed up. There's going to be a lot of bloody matches, I think. And yeah.
Well, here's the funny thing. There's one match here. I'm just going to go through the card quickly just so the people who are watching who may not know. Obviously, it was announced. It was actually a number one contenders match now for the BCW heavyweight title. Alvin Alvarez takes on ECW legend Danny Doran.
Oh, that would be great.
This one's going to be a bloody one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Phil Insane versus Matt Tremont in a Halloween House of Horrors match. What that actually means, I have no idea.
Oh, they're probably going to have like weapons, maybe. And bring like Halloween weapons. That would be fun, like a leg and stuff.
Masada takes on Too Cold Scorpio. Blackout, and yes, guys, we're not kidding you with this one.
This one looks like it's going to be fun.
Powers of Pain. Drake Younger takes on Shane Mercer for the BCW.
I absolutely love Drake. He's very talented.
And then this one is very appropriate for Halloween.
Yeah.
Crowbar versus Gangrel. And obviously, as we mentioned before, Dani Mo will be taking on Lana Cross for the number one contenders spot to eventually take on possibly Semi Chaos. Again, guys, it all goes down October 25th. Start time at 7:30 on Triller TV. But like I mentioned before, Battleground War Room / Around the Ropes will be doing the pre-show live from the 2300 Arena. So it'll be great to be back in that building again.
That is awesome.
So, yes, and it's funny you bring up the Phillies. Last year I was at the Halloween show last year.
Yeah.
And me being a New Yorker, I'm a New York Mets fan. And we had just eliminated the Phillies in the playoffs last year. And I decided to wear my Mets hat in Philly.
Oh, you're brave.
Let me put it to you this way. I had quite a few people giving me such a dirty look.
Would you do it again? That's the question.
Yeah, probably. More than likely. But honestly, the Mets aren't in it anymore, so I'm going to have fun. But I would definitely love to have you on again, especially on Around the Ropes at some point.
That'd be great. I can keep you updated with the movie. And so the movie producers are actually going to be coming to Canada in November to see me and my mom and my family and scope out some spots because, of course, they just we're going to be giving them a tour of like where the Hart House was and Stampede Wrestling and all that kind of stuff. So super excited for that. And the ball is definitely rolling. We're in production.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see it. Again, as a wrestling fan, we always talk about tag team wrestling, and your dad is always viewed as one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time.
I agree.
And I feel like with him and Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldogs, I mean, what can you say?
They definitely paved the way for tag team wrestling, along with the Hart Foundation. Those two tag teams at the same time broke in together and changed everything.
Absolutely. But again, Dynamite Daughter, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, where can the fans connect with you on social media and give anything else you'd like to promote? The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. You can find me, Dynamite Doll. I'm on, basically, if you go there, I feel like everyone's on Instagram. I have my link tree on there and it has all my links. So that'll take you everywhere for merchandise, Facebook, Twitter, whatever floats your boat. I'm on there. Promotion-wise, I mean, my next thing is just Philly and conventions. I'm trying to kind of hit up all the conventions that I can in the US. So yeah,
absolutely. And I'm looking forward to actually getting a chance to meet you in person.
Me too. Yeah, we can sit down and do a little interview on the fly. Oh, I've also started my own podcast as well, so maybe I'll mic up and do a little interviewing myself.
What's the name of the podcast?
So it's Dirt with the Doll, and it's on YouTube under X Brand Wrestling.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely, when this video, obviously we're live right now, but what I'll do is I'll put it in the description below, a link to your podcast.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Go check it out. They can go check it out. And then
I'm just, also when I'm on the road, I'm just like vlogging everything, just having fun, and I'm calling it Diary of the Doll.
Well, I can't wait to see it. And guys, again, Battleground Championship Wrestling returns to the 2300 Arena October 25th, start time at 7:30. If you're not in the Philly area, definitely check it out on Triller TV. Again, guys, Around the Ropes, Battleground War Room. We'll have the pre-show for you guys starting at 7 p.m. Who's going to join us? You have to wait and see. But guys, again, For a Dynamite, oh, I did the wrong way again. For a Dynamite doll, I'm John. This has been the Battleground War Room. We will catch you guys next time.
See you there.